Is it a good idea to buy a car on Craigslist? Buying a used car can be a very challenging and very risky thing to do, especially if you're doing it on a website like Craigslist. You have to be very careful, and there's a lot of key things that you need to look for when you're buying a used car, and especially if you're buying one on Craigslist. For this video, I'm going to take you guys on DC Craigslist, and we are going to look and see what the DC area has to offer in the cars for sale by owner section of Craigslist. What we're going to be targeting today is we're going to be looking for a daily driver that is under $2,000 because that's something that's cheap. We're going to be looking at cheap vehicles for this video because there's a lot of people out there that are looking for a cheap vehicle to use every day. And there's people that are looking for something that maybe is newer and they're willing to spend a little bit more money. But like I said, we're going to be covering the cheap vehicle section of Craigslist. What I'm going to do is check the by owner only to avoid dealers because chances are you're not going to find a vehicle that's a decent vehicle from a dealer for under $2,000. The first thing I'm seeing here, and this is really standing out to me as far as the price goes, is at the top of the list. And none of this is pre-set up or anything. I'm just taking this as I go. This is a 1998 Volkswagen Jetta GT 2.0 5-speed with 116,000 miles. It's $450. That price might stand out and you might be ready to go pull the trigger on it. But you have to take a look at this stuff very carefully. Notice the title says undercarriage damage and bags. So we're going to go down to the description here. This person says that it is fixable, which you have to be very careful about what certain people say when you're buying a vehicle. You have to kind of have maintenance records and reports, Carfax, AutoCheck, things like that to back it up. Something like this, it does have somewhat lowish miles, and the price is dirt cheap. But if you're going to be using something for a lot of commuting and something that you want to put your life and your family in to just depend on, something with undercarriage damage and rocker damage with the airbags deployed, it's not really something that you should look at. So I'm going to mark this as something you should stay away from. Even though the price is ridiculously cheap, it's really not cheap for everything that's wrong with this car. Back scrolling down here, we really have a lot of newer vehicles on here for under the $10,000 price range, but that's going to be for another video. We're going to keep scrolling down here. And it looks like we have a 96 Honda Prelude for $800, selling as whole or parts. When somebody says that, it's really just something you should stay away from. Another key thing you can tell is this vehicle has been sitting. Looking at it, the tires are very low, leafs are built up, and you can just tell that it's been sitting for a very long time by the mold and everything that's stuck on it and by its situation of where it's parked. So $800, but that's not really a running vehicle, so we can't do anything with that one. What you'll find, at least in the area that I live, I'm not far from the DC area, is you're going to find a lot of these older 15 to 20-year-old German cars like such, 2000 BMW 528i, and here we have a 2000 S430 Mercedes. This Mercedes is only $1,300. So say you just get your tax return and you're ready to go out and buy something under the $2,000 price range, and you see this, you think, oh, Mercedes, nice, I want to go buy this. Looking at the front of this, you can tell that the bumper is not lining up, and it looks like the paint is a different color, so chances are it's been in an accident. It also looks like it has some sort of fluid that has leaked out, possibly from this vehicle, so that's something that's a little bit scary. Right here, the tire is low. That's another thing that's a little bit of a sign that it's not being driven. Looking through these pictures, it doesn't really look that great. Another key thing to avoid like the plague is temporary tags. If you see a vehicle for sale on Craigslist, or if you see a vehicle just in general for sale with a temporary tag, you really just want to stay away from it because If the person's not a dealer, they more than likely bought that vehicle for themselves. If they're selling it before the temp tag runs out, chances are there's probably something pretty heavy wrong with it. Looking at the back, the bumper is all scuffed up here. Temp tag is good until March 22nd. Temp tags are commonly good for 60 days, so chances are he just bought that December 22nd, which you can see here. It's the 1st of January. That's a little over a week ago. It's 8 days ago. That Mercedes right there is something that you're going to want to steer clear of, even though the price is something that is cheap. Just like I said, in general, you're going to want to stay away from these German cars because they just tend to have a lot of high maintenance issues that are just very pricey. So you might get a cheap car, but you'll end up spending maybe 3 or 4 times that in repairs. Like this BMW here. Before I even go down, it says mechanic special. It says it runs good after being warmed up on cold mornings. That doesn't sound good. It needs a mirror cover, alternator, power steering rack, and it's just, if it needs that, who knows what else it needs. So that's something that you're going to want to stay away from. Like I said, just avoid the German car area of Craigslist if you're looking for something under $2,000. Here we have a 2007 Chevrolet Silverado, and this says that it's a one owner. That's a good sign. It's 230,000 miles, so the mileage is higher, but it is under the 2,000 mark. It is at $1,750, so it's something that's a little bit cheaper under our price range here. Has ladder racks, and it's a 230,000 mile work truck. Up front, looks like you're going to have some body dents in the hood, but really, if you're going to buy something with this mileage for this price, you can't really nitpick things. The interior doesn't look like it's too bad. The vinyl flooring looks kind of clean and good shape. Looks like it could use a good vacuum job, but the seats don't look like they have tears or anything. The dashboard looks good. This right here, if you absolutely have to have a truck, you're willing to take a little bit of a chance on the higher miles, and you want a cheap vehicle for work, this might be something that you could look at. I'm not going to say pull the trigger on it, but something along these lines. If I was in that situation, I would maybe consider taking a look at it if I was going to buy a car on Craigslist. In short, should you buy a car on Craigslist? I would say avoid it at all costs. Do not buy a car on Craigslist. I'm just simply trying to show you alternative options for if you're forced to buy a car on Craigslist or if you have no other options. Here we have an '02 Volvo S60, 2.4 turbo, $800, 187,000 miles. Yeah, big red flag right here. Salvage title. That's something to definitely stay away from. And it says they just had the thermostat replaced and it needs an upper radiator hose to run. So a key thing right here, something that I'm observing, is they replaced the thermostat and it needs an upper radiator hose. Something with the cooling system is going on with this car, and for that reason I would just steer very clear of it because coolant systems, head gaskets, that kind of stuff can get very pricey. If you can find something, I'm looking here for something like a Corolla or a Camry. I'd stay away from any kind of Chrysler products. Let's take a look at this one here. This is a 2003 Honda Accord. Now, this is not listed under 2,000 or for 2,000 or less, but you know, you might be able to take a look at the vehicle and maybe offer somebody $2,000 if they have it listed for this price. They might be able to negotiate a little bit. It does have 230,000 miles. One thing with these Hondas, this era Honda, is you have to be careful about this right here. This little thing that I'm zooming in on, that's an automatic shift knob. And this generation Accord can tend to have transmission problems with the automatics, so you got to be careful with that. It does say it's excellent condition. Maintenance up to date, records to back it up, synthetic oil changes, something like that. That doesn't look absolutely hideous. Could be a spam. That's a whole other thing to look for when we're talking about Craigslist ads. We'll get into that another time. I'm looking through here and I still haven't found one that I would pull the trigger on if I was looking for a daily driver. We've got a 2006 Nissan Altima for $2,200, 170,000 miles, and it looks like The water on the ground says that they probably just washed it, so I mean they're trying to get it cleaned up to sell it. That's not really a bad thing. The interior looks somewhat dirty. I mean, it's got stains here. It doesn't have any rips, but the floor down here looks dirty. I'm looking at this right here, and it looks like it has a key wire with the key strapped to the steering wheel. That right there is a red flag because it tells me that it was probably at an auto auction, and if somebody's selling it this quick after being at an auto auction, more than likely it's not something that I want to deal with. It's got 170K, no problems, says you can drive it anywhere, but again, you have to be really careful about this stuff. And this right here, that right there just throws me off from even looking at this car anymore because it tells me they just bought it, more than likely. Again, we've got a Jeep here for a 2007 Compass for $1,750, but you know, I'd stay away from the Chrysler products. That's pretty beat up, to be honest. But anything on Craigslist, I'm already leery of, but a Chrysler product on Craigslist is like a recipe for disaster. This one right here, this actually from the outside listing picture looks like it might be one of your better options out of everything that we've seen so far. Again, we're picking the best out of the worst here. The body on this one doesn't look like it has any noticeable dents. It doesn't look like it has any rust. It's got 109,000 miles. They're listing it with a full tank of gas. So that right there says that they're confident in the vehicle. They're more than likely using it, and they want to have gas in it because it's being driven daily. Air conditioning, automatic trans, 109K, 4-cylinder, new hood lock. That's something cosmetic. They took the time to replace that. New inner top cloth, which that's headliner, so they took the time to replace the headliner. And it's inspected till November of 2019. This right here, if I had to choose so far for under $2,000 out of all the vehicles we've looked at so far, I would probably choose this one just because of the signs that say full tank of gas, low mileage, no rust, at least in the pictures. I mean, it looks like it's probably the best out of the worst, like I said. KBB, they say it's $1,780 to $2,900. They're asking $1,950. So something like that, that might be something that you could go ahead and maybe look at, see if it's something that you're going to go forward with. Oh my. This is not a common find. This is a 91 Camry for $1,500. It's a wagon. That's not something you see every day. It doesn't look like it's in the best of shape. It's got a little bit of rocker rust in the back here. Doesn't look like it has any noticeable dents from what I'm seeing. It's got 199,000 miles though, and it says it runs but needs work. I don't know what kind of work that needs. I wouldn't really buy it, to tell you the truth, because it needs work, but that right there is just a nice little vehicle from the 90s that you don't see anymore too often. So there you go, guys. That's the first page. That's 120 listings that we just scrolled through on Craigslist and kind of skipped through some, just showed you some different signs to look for. Let me know your thoughts about buying a used vehicle. If you've bought a used vehicle on Craigslist or it may be an auction or something, you want to share your experience, feel free to comment below because I'd love to hear your thoughts. And also, I'm going to be doing some more of these videos, going to try to put out some related to buying a newer vehicle, online car shopping, and also buying maybe a fixer-upper type vehicle off of Craigslist. So let's see how this video goes over. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. Turn on notifications before you go, and subscribe today if you haven't already.